And this 27-year-old guy who was working in the real estate world, you know, dealing with houses, properties, and all that jazz. But deep down, I've always had this huge dream of starting my own thing. Imagine having something that you built from scratch, something that's totally yours. That's what I wanted more than anything. And finally, I felt like the stars were aligning, and it was my moment to shoot for the stars. So a few months back, I was like, this is it, it's now or never. And I decided to quit my job and pour all my energy and time into making my dream a reality. Now, about the money part, because you know, starting a business isn't exactly cheap. Luckily, I had been saving up for a rainy day, and by the time I decided to quit my job, I had a nice little nest egg set aside for this very purpose. I had been toying with the idea for around half a year, and I was pretty set on making it happen. Plus, I thought it would be super cool to have my parents on board as investors. My dad's a pro when it comes to business. He's been in the game for years, running a car dealership with my uncle. And my mom, she's the brain keeping all their finances in check as their accountant. With their know-how and backing, I was pretty confident that I could pull this off. So, at a family dinner, which now feels like it might have been the wrong time and place, I pitched my idea. My younger brother was there too. He's 25, has a couple of years of sales experience under his belt, and let me tell you, the guy's got ambition for days. Anyway, a couple of weeks after I shared my big plan, he comes out and says he's also looking to start his own business and he wants in on the parent investment train too. I honestly thought he was just pulling my leg at first, but no, he was dead serious. He even quit his job, saying that seeing me take the leap inspired him to go after his own business dreams. Part of me was like, really dude? I was a tad annoyed, not gonna lie. But then I figured, hey, it's not like we're going into the same line of business or anything, and his doing his own thing shouldn't really affect what I'm trying to build. So, I tried my best to just let it go and not let it bug me too much. After all, the whole point of going after your dreams is to do what makes you happy, right? And if this is what he wants, then I guess I should be all for it. I totally was wrong, and I didn't even realize it until way later. Here's what happened. A few weeks after my brother dropped some big news, we were all sitting around the dinner table again, and my parents dropped a bombshell on me. They said they had enough money to help out with starting a business, but only enough for one of us. And guess what? They decided they would give that chance to my brother, not me. The kicker, my brother suddenly wanted to jump into the real estate game, which is exactly what I had been planning to do. But here's the thing, he didn't know the first thing about real estate and had never even shown any interest in it before I shared my own dreams of starting a business. I was super upset when I heard this from my parents. I mean, I didn't say anything right away because I was just trying to wrap my head around this massive disappointment. Then, my brother tries to be Mr. Nice Guy, saying he's going to make things better for me. But it totally backfired. He was like, don't worry, you can still be part of this, but you know, not as an equal partner or anything, just something to keep you involved. Honestly, it felt like a slap in the face, especially right then, when I was already down about our parents picking him over me. I've always had this feeling way down deep that my parents kind of favored my brother, but having it thrown in my face like that and then hearing my brother's offer, which felt more like charity than anything else, just made it all the more real and painful. What my brother said really got under my skin. I just lost it. I ended up blowing up at him, accusing him of trying to swipe my business idea because he didn't have any original thoughts of his own. This whole mess made me see things more clearly, but not in a good way. It was like confirming something I never wanted to believe. My brother trying to console me in a way that felt more insulting than helpful was the last straw. Our conversation turned into a huge argument where I just let out all my frustration and anger about him stepping into my dream with no real passion or ideas of his own, just because our parents saw him as the safer bet. It was a rough moment, realizing not only were my dreams on hold, but also feeling like my own family wasn't fully in my corner. So this whole thing started when I basically told my brother, hey, you're acting like a copycat. I meant that he needed to stop trying to be like me all the time and find his own unique style or interests. I even brought up some examples from when we were younger, back in our school days. He had this habit of always picking up whatever I was into, whether it was a sport, a video game, or a hobby, and then he'd try to show he could do it better than me. But the thing is, he couldn't. Every single time, he'd end up not doing as well as he thought he would. And I told him straight up, it's going to be the same story this time, too. You're not going to suddenly beat me at my own game. He didn't take that well. He got really upset, which I guess is understandable because no one likes to be called out like that. But then he said something pretty harsh. He said it wasn't his fault that our parents seemed to like him more than me. He even went as far as to say that the reason they preferred him was pretty obvious, because he was better. That was a low blow, and it made the whole argument feel kind of childish and pointless. Our parents tried to step in and smooth things over by saying they love both of us equally, but there was still this tension in the air. Despite their efforts to make peace, they kind of sided with my brother by saying they thought he had more of a knack for business than I did. They even suggested I should consider joining him in his business ventures, as if I would ever want to do that. Here's the thing, my brother might have a degree from business school, but I've been out there in the real world, making a living as a real estate agent. I've learned a lot from real-life experiences, things you can't just pick up in a classroom. He doesn't have any of that hands-on experience, and I couldn't wrap my head around why my parents would just assume he'd do better in business than me without giving me a fair shot. It all just felt like they had already chosen their favorite child, and it was glaringly obvious that it wasn't me. My brother was the golden child in their eyes, and it seemed like no matter what I did or said, I couldn't change their minds. It was a tough pill to swallow, realizing that in this family dynamic, I was always going to be seen as second best, at least in their eyes. It wasn't just about the business stuff, it was about feeling valued and understood by my own family. And at that moment, it felt like I was fighting a losing battle for their recognition and approval. After that day, I just couldn't take it anymore. My family was treating me like I was some kind of villain in their story, always assuming the worst about me. It hurt, you know. It felt like they didn't get me at all, and it was as if they thought I was up to no good all the time. That was the final straw for me. I made a pretty big decision that day. I was done. Done with trying to explain myself. Done with seeking their approval. Just done with all the drama. So I told myself, no more. It's been 6 whole months since I've had any sort of conversation with them. In the beginning, after I put my foot down and distanced myself, my parents did try to reach out. They called a few times, maybe hoping we could talk things out, but I was too hurt, too frustrated. I didn't respond to their attempts, and after a while, they just stopped trying. It was as if we all silently agreed to this new reality where we just don't communicate. And it's not just talking I've been avoiding. I've literally been steering clear of any place where I might accidentally run into them. Family gatherings. Nope. Haven't been to one in months. Holiday dinners. I skipped those too. I didn't want to face that uncomfortable silence or those awkward stares trying to navigate a conversation without really talking about the elephant in the room. Avoiding them seemed like the best option. It's like I've been living in my own bubble. And surprisingly, I found that I kind of prefer it this way. It's quieter, less stressful. Now, fast forward to about 2 weeks ago. My life took a turn for the unexpected. I've been with my girlfriend for almost 3 years. She's amazing, and I had this whole plan laid out. We were going on this romantic weekend trip, just the two of us. I had it all planned out in my head. It was going to be the perfect moment to propose to her, to start a new chapter together. We get to our destination, and after settling in for a bit, she decides to take a shower. That's when I realized I needed to charge my phone but couldn't find it anywhere. I figured I must have left it at home, which was a bummer but not the end of the world. I decided to use my girlfriend's phone instead since it was already plugged in and charging. But here's where things got really weird. When I picked up her phone, I noticed she had a bunch of new messages. Curiosity got the better of me, and I saw that the texts were from my dad. His name was right there on her screen. That stopped me in my tracks. Why would she be texting with my dad? We've been in this no-contact phase with my family, so it made 0 sense. It was like all these alarm bells went off in my head. It was confusing, surprising, and honestly a little bit alarming. So you know how in some households there's this unspoken rule that you just don't go snooping through each other's phones or computers, right? Well, in my place, we had that rule too, and it was a big deal for us. But this one time, I had this gut feeling that something wasn't quite right, so I decided to bend the rules a bit. And let me tell you, I'm super glad I did, even though it felt a bit weird at first. My girlfriend, who usually shares everything with me, had suddenly changed her password. This was a red flag, because why change it out of the blue, right? So, there I was trying to guess her new password, and would you believe it? On my second try, I nailed it. It was her sister's birthday. Now these two are thick as thieves, always have been, so in hindsight, it was kind of an obvious guess. After I got past the password, I started digging through her texts. And boy, did I uncover a whole soap opera. Turns out she and my dad had been chatting for months behind my back. But it wasn't just idle chit-chat. She was sending him all sorts of information about my business plans, including where I wanted to open new offices and who my investors were. These were my big secrets, things I had worked really hard on and were meant to be just between us. You see, we share a living room where I do most of my work and she's always around, so it wasn't hard for her to get her hands on my documents. I never thought much of it because I trusted her, but discovering that she was sending this info to my dad, that hit me like a ton of bricks. My dad and we've got this competitive thing going on, especially when it comes to business, and he would do anything to see my brother succeed over me. So finding out she was feeding him my secrets was a real shocker. But here's the kicker. I figured out why she was doing it. After every bit of information she sent my dad, they would talk about money. He would tell her how much he was going to send, and she would confirm when she got it. It was like she was a spy, selling my business secrets for cash. The realization made me feel betrayed on a whole new level. Here I was, thinking we were a team, but in reality, she was working with my parents to undermine me for money. It was a tough pill to swallow, and it left me feeling pretty disgusted with the whole situation. And it wasn't just pictures of documents and paperwork that was integral to the business that I was setting up. But she would also tell him other things about me, like who from the family I met with, what I told my relatives about them. And worst of all, she would even rat me out whenever I would talk badly about them or my brother, even to her, and she would get paid for all of it. For context, my girlfriend is a freelance writer. She used to have a stable job, but she quit and decided to strike out on her own a couple of months after we started dating, because I had told her that I would support her until she was able to support herself. And that hadn't happened yet, so I was still covering rent for her as she lived with me. I couldn't understand why she needed the money so desperately that she was willing to sell me out and sabotage our relationship. I never asked her to contribute to any expenses and just wordlessly kept working and paying for everything while she tried to save whatever little she earned herself. And I had never made her feel bad about it. She didn't even borrow money from me for her personal expenses, which was great, but that's just about how independent she was. And I would say that I had a huge role to play in her having a home and food to eat every day. I'm not even bragging about it. It's just a fact. So her going out of her way to screw me over for some extra cash was pretty much insane and straight out of a badly made film or something. I was extremely disturbed when I saw that, and within a split second I made up my mind that I was going to leave that very instant. I hadn't unpacked any of my bags yet, so I grabbed all my stuff and made my way to the parking lot of the hotel as quickly as I could, and once everything was in the car, I started driving back home. I didn't stop for a break or check my phone until I had put considerable distance between me and the hotel. And finally, after almost 2 hours of driving, I stopped at a gas station because I was feeling nauseated and needed a can of soda. It was then that I finally checked my phone and I had about 10 missed calls and way too many texts from my girlfriend. She was panicking about where I was and kept asking me if something was wrong and said that she was really worried. She even said that she didn't know what was wrong, but if I was going through something, then I needed to just come back and talk to her and we could sort it all out. So I guess that she hadn't realized that I knew about her spying on me for my parents. I didn't know what to say to her, so I decided to just stop everything, take a break, and think about everything for a while. I was horrified by the fact that my girlfriend of so many years had been spying on me for my parents, and I was feeling everything all at once. Betrayed, hurt, angry, and sad. But then I got to thinking and decided I was not going to let these people get the better of me and run away. I was going to make life hell for them. So I turned back around and started driving back towards the hotel, because I had a plan in mind when I returned to the hotel room. She seemed genuinely happy to see me, but I knew the truth now and had to do my best to pretend that everything was normal. I was repulsed by her, but I still acted as though I was fine and told her that the reason that I had been gone for so long without an explanation was because I was planning something for her, and I just freaked out for a bit in the middle of it, so I had to take some time out and calm down. She seemed confused until I went down on one knee and told her that I wasn't freaked out anymore and that it was the thought of spending the rest of my life with her that really helped me make sense of things. And now I knew that I was doing the right thing. She was really happy and accepted instantly, which just makes me think about how it's so insane that while she was stabbing me in the back all along, she was still more than happy to get married to me. After that, I told her that I wanted to reconnect with my parents, to share this news with them, since I'd had enough of our feud. I told her that I didn't want to get married without my family present, and so I thought that it was in all our best interests to just bury the hatchet, just to see how she would react to it. She seemed a little put off by what I said, but recovered within seconds and told me that she believed that it was a great idea. and encouraged me to make amends with them as soon as I could. So I texted them right after we got engaged while she spoke to her family and told them about us. They didn't reply for a day, but on the next day of our getaway, I received a text from my father saying that he was happy that I had chosen to apologize to them and make things right, and that they would love to be a part of my life once again. Once that was done, I started making arrangements for the engagement party right away. I told my girlfriend that I would plan it all myself because I wanted it to be a surprise for her to make sure that she didn't get in the way of anything. One of my friends is an event planner and I got him involved. I hosted the party at my house and invited everybody that my girlfriend and I knew, including her family and her friends. It was a lot of hard work, but I managed to keep everything a secret from her until the very last moment. And I definitely did take her and my family by surprise. On the day of the party, once all our guests had arrived, I decided to make a speech and toast to our relationship. I thanked her and my family for everything that they did for me at first. And then I went on to the big reveal and told everybody that I knew what they had been up to for the last couple of months, and I made sure to make the speech as humiliating as possible. I call my girlfriend a sellout, and I call my parents even worse names. But I had the best insults reserved for my brother, who I believed was the root cause of all of this. And I told him that, even though he had access to all my business ideas now, it was just kind of sad because not even his own parents had any faith in him. And in spite of being the golden child, it really got him nowhere since he still had to rely on me to become successful. All of them were pathetic, and I wanted to make sure that everybody in our lives was aware of it now. The party took place a week after I found out about my girlfriend's little arrangement with my family, so I had sufficient time to set everything up and also obtain screenshots of my girlfriend's text conversations with my father from her phone, which was easy now that I knew her password, and I just had to sneak into her phone while she was asleep and then delete all the proof. I had booklets made out of those screenshots that I have collected and had them distributed out to each guest individually. After the speech, just to prove how spineless and psychotic everybody involved in this was, all our guests was stunned. But nobody was more shocked than my family and my girlfriend. She actually left the room crying and refused to come out until everyone was gone. Everybody pretty much cleared out after the distribution of the booklets, but my family stayed and tried to fight me. I wasn't having any of it, and I told them that if they didn't clear the premises, I would call the cops and then this will turn ugly, as in whatever was necessary, so it would be better for them if they left, and then they went away. They were probably afraid that if this turned even uglier, then it would be hard to save face among their relatives who had heard everything. And this definitely would become the talk of the town in the next couple of days, so they didn't want any more trouble. I didn't hear from my parents after that, but I did have to talk to my girlfriend that very night. She did leave after the party and has moved back in with her parents, but not before she tore into me that night and told me that I was a horrible human being, so putting her through that. She told me that the only reason she was doing that was because she needed the money to fund her little sister's education since she was about to start med school a couple of months after she graduated, and her sister's still in high school. So that checked out, but I asked her why didn't she just ask for the money from me, and she told me that she was too proud to do it. And when my father offered to give her money in exchange for information on my business and other dealings, she didn't think it through and just accepted it. Apparently, my father had told her that he wanted to know about this because he wanted to help me with the business, but since I wouldn't speak to him, he had no other way, and had to resort to these tactics. It didn't even occur to her that he might be using all that information to help my brother instead, even though she knew about the problems that we had been having and admitted that she had been very stupid not to think this through. But then she turned it around and told me that while what she had done was horrible, what I did was nothing short of psychotic either. She finally figured out that I had known about what she was up to right from the day of our proposal itself, and she told me that I should have just broken up with her that day instead of coming back after driving away just to screw with her and my parents and humiliate them in front of so many people. It was already a given that we were no longer going to be together anymore. But before she left, she told me that she was glad that I'd shown her my true colors because she was about to tell my father that she couldn't spy on me for them anymore and that she was going to call it off after our engagement. And that was the last conversation that we had before she left. Since the night of our engagement party, I haven't spoken to anybody and haven't done anything apart from just going to work and coming back home. I thought that the party and humiliating them would make me feel better about everything. But it really doesn't. And I feel like she did have a point about me coming off worse in this scenario because what I did was actually pretty psychotic and I feel bad about it. So aita for throwing my girlfriend a party just to humiliate her. Update 1. Hey, guys, so this is going to be a short update, but it's been 2 weeks since my ex and I broke up, and today she came back to grab a couple of things that she had left behind. We didn't talk to each other at all, and the whole time she just pretended that I wasn't even there, which was hurtful. But it was well deserved. She did something incredibly insane and gave me trust issues for life. And I humiliated her in front of all her friends and her parents. So I guess it's fine now because we can just call it even. It's still going to hurt for a while, but I don't think I can do anything to help it now. I don't owe her an apology, that's for sure. So thank you for all the help and advice, you guys. I guess it worked, because at least I feel better about myself now and about my parents. They still haven't talked to me and I feel like it's for the best. They already have all my business plans and ideas, which sucks, but there's not really much I can do to help the situation now that the damage is already done. The most that I can hope for is that my brother does the decent thing and doesn't utilize any of it, which seems unlikely because he is human garbage. And also, after the way I humiliated him at my party, I don't think he's going to want to hold back. So things are looking pretty bleak for me right now on the business front at least. But I hope that I get through it somehow. Update 2. Hi everybody. It's been almost a month since the last update, and I finally embarked on a new business journey today. I know it takes time to set up a new business, but I'm already really excited to finally work and do something that I really enjoy. All the planning and hours that I put into this has finally become fruitful and come to something. And this also means that I have something to take my mind off of my ex. I know that she did me dirty, but that doesn't mean I can't still miss her and do good times that we had. I'm in therapy right now and I'm trying to work through all the trauma and just process my feelings about everything in general. It's kind of difficult, but now that I have my job to look forward to, I feel like things are going to start looking up for me now. Still no news about my brother or what he's up to, but if I have managed to establish my business before him, then that means that I have a head start and I have to make the most of it, so my fingers are crossed. Update 3. So I recently learned that my family is moving away because my brother is going to establish his business in a different state altogether since he doesn't want to be rivals anymore. I heard this right from the source because he told me all about it in the really long email, and made sure to mention that he was sorry that I wasn't mentally stable enough to deal with my emotions, like any normal rational adult, and thought that it was okay to throw parties and humiliate people just because I was bad at confrontation and I just wanted to be the center of attention for once, even though I had no qualities that would justify it. But he wished the best for me and hoped that I would stay away from him and our parents. Now it's been almost 3 months since the night of the engagement party, and I think I'm finally beginning to deal with it and process everything. A lot better than I was back then, so that's great. I also heard that my girlfriend was finally going out on dates with other people. Now I was out and about like usual, so I guess everybody's moving on and so am I. My business is done all right and with time I'll be fine again.